So the big question we want to answer is this: how a hard-working individual who always followed the rules and who knows there is more to life than working 9 to 5 for 40 years to retire, how do you fast track to a lifestyle of wealth and freedom using property? That's the big question, and I'm here to give you the answers. My name is George Lumbana, and I'm a professional property investor and entrepreneur.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our podcast again. Hello, George. How are you doing?
Hi, Noel. How are you? I'm very, very well indeed.
That's great. Really, really good. Great weekend that just passed. Hope everybody enjoyed. How was your weekend? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, nice and sunny and actually quite warm. So really enjoyed the weekend. Just out and about today, doing a few things with my properties. But yeah, apart from that, a very relaxed weekend.
That's fantastic. That's great. So guys, talking to George about what we wanted to talk today, something that would be of interest to you all. We believe something that you can use to see yourself on the mirror and find where you are at the moment during on your property journey is the title of this podcast, which is "What type of investor are you?" And this is based on what we are finding or what we found in the past with different people that come to us to the highest level of what we do, which is the hands-off investment. And we've seen different characters, different personalities, different risk levels, which is amazing to be able to deal with and see how the mind of investors at different stages work. So where would you like to start, George?
Right. So basically, we want to classify the investors in probably maybe 4 categories. And the first category is the one who is ready to invest. And it's that investor who literally has the money ready in the bank and literally is contacting us on a regular basis, saying, when are we doing this? When are we doing this? A really hands-on type of person. So these type of investors are actually quite interesting because you go within this type of investor, you got different personalities and different ages as well. We've had investors who are in the late 30s, early 40s, who obviously want to learn the process. They want to learn how things are done, and they want to literally experience the process as they're investing the money as well, which I find quite interesting because some people just want to pay the money and that's it. You just want to get some returns on the investment, and they don't really want to learn how things are done. So on this first type of person, it's good that they have money, and it's good that they want to learn the process, because once you got the 2 combinations, then you are eager to start as soon as possible. So they're really, really looking forward to start the project as soon as possible before they spend the money or before the money is no longer available for whatever reason. So that is a very particular type of person, and something that's quite interesting, or has been quite interesting to know. It's the risk management that these people tend to have. So the ones that are hands-on and want to learn and invest at the same time, they're quite risky. They want to invest and do it quicker, and they want to get as much money as possible in a single property. So for someone who hasn't done any of the courses or hasn't done anything related to property in the past, well, obviously that's a calculated risk as you're doing it with people like us. But at the same time, it's interesting to have this type of people where they're willing to risk everything in order for them to get big returns or big gains on the investment. So that's one type of investor. The other type of investor I think we've had in the past is the completely the opposite to this one, the hesitant. So the person who perhaps has the money, the person who has done things in the past, but for some reason or simply just circumstances, the investments that they have done in the past, they have failed, and they have I don't know, they have probably encountered difficulties where, I don't know, the investment didn't go through, or they lost money, or things happened, whoever they partnered with, or the joint venture just didn't work out, or things like that in the past. So they're very, very cautious of how they do things in the next investment. So I think it's a good thing that you've learned from your mistakes, and it's a good thing that if things don't work out the first time round, obviously you want to try different things to make it work the second time. However, when that starts pulling too much things into your head and saying, what if, the only problem with that is you might not end up doing anything, because you're already thinking and contemplating all the bad stuff that could happen, but then you stop thinking about the good stuff that the investment was about. Now, the other type of investors that I tend to encounter is like people who want to retire in the next year or two. So people who are in the late 40s, 50s, perhaps 60s, who already have an investment pot ready. They can take some money from their investment pot and from the pension pot, and they want to invest in property, and they probably want to buy 1 or 2 properties just to retire and just literally just take it as is. So those investors, I kind of connect really well with those type of investors. Firstly, because they're very easy to work with. We understand what they want, and is pretty much hands off. They don't want to get involved too much. They don't want to hassle too much, and basically they give us all the responsibility to deal with it. Which in a way, it's a good thing in my opinion, as we just literally have no barriers of how far we can go. As long as we have everything clear from the very beginning, we literally just crack on with the project, and within a matter of 2, 3, or possibly 4 months, the property is already purchased and completed. So those investors tend to connect really well with me. Those people are also, they're very interested in the term of that they want to have things settled within the year or two. And they're not too ambitious on how many properties they want to buy. They just want to have a good side income that can replace their pension, or a good income that could basically pay for their expenses. And they're very patient in terms of like the time of how long things could take, or they're willing to go just one at a time and see how it works, and then start with the second. So these types of people are very, 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 I would say, very free in the way they do things, and I kind of like that. What else? I mean, what other sort of investor have we had in the past, Noel? Probably we've had the pushy ones. Those pushy ones are quite funny because they want everything now. I want the property now. I want to buy now. I want to have the property converted now. I want the HMO license now. I want everything now. And sometimes with property, you encounter walls, like I call them. It's just, things that happen along the way that perhaps, you just need to deal with it when it comes. It's unforeseen things that happen. For instance, the builders took a little bit longer than expected to complete the property. For instance, last year during COVID, it was an absolute nightmare to complete on projects. Banks were taking longer to release the money. Solicitors were taking longer. No one was working in the office, so everything working from home just delayed things. Also HMO applications, because half of the council basically was working from home. So all the planning applications and HMO applications and all sort of applications were literally backlogged, and people were limited with the amount of things they could do. So everything was taking a lot longer than expected. And when you have things like that in the pipeline, and then you have a pushy investor, it's very, very, very difficult to kind of like manage the things at the pace that obviously he intended to move it. So yeah, those sort of things is something that for any of you, I mean, that doesn't necessarily focus on the push investors, but on anyone who wants to do things quickly. Obviously, take a little bit of time and breathe in, because with property, things might take a little bit longer than expected. And, you just unforeseen things that could happen. But as long as you finish the project, and as long as you committed to do whatever is necessary to go around the barriers that are put into place, then you should be able to complete the project and obviously have a nice profit at the end of the project.
Yes. There is another type of investor. I mean, might overlap with the ones that you mentioned here, but I would call it the stubborn one, which is the investor that come to us who got the cash, wants to learn, but doesn't really want to follow the advice and ends up doing it himself. We had a case where that happened, and this investor couldn't even manage the completion of the property, and then he lost it. That was a shame because there was a lot of work involved there, but he was so stubborn, trying to do things his way, even though we were providing the best possible advice, and still he didn't follow. And then happened what had to happen. Like the vendor basically got tired after how long was that? 6-7 months. And then, he lost the property, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's actually very true. It's I mean, if you're paying for the service and you're paying for the advice that we want to give you, obviously try to listen to the advice that we try to give you, because at the end of the day, that's what you're paying for. So, but if you're paying for the advice and then you want to do your own thing, why do you pay us in the first place? You know, I mean, this is something that I just take it like that. And if you want to do something on your own, well, you're more than welcome to do it, but then things like this happen, you see. We had the investor who initially wanted to obviously buy a couple of properties, and then but he was also remortgaging a property of his, or he was purchasing another property, and then in the end, I literally introduced him to a broker. He took like 2 or 3 months to I don't know, to provide all the documents with the broker, and things didn't happen. Then the broker in the end couldn't offer anything to him, or something was offered but he didn't take it. Then I introduced him to a lender directly, and then he was just quick enough dealing with the things. And we normally provide good solicitors that obviously can deal with the operation in a good professional manner and very efficient manner as well. But he wanted to have his own solicitors, which in the end cost him the property, because the solicitors weren't moving quick enough either, and they weren't providing the information that it was required by the bank, and also it was taking ages for them to reply to the vendor. So that upset the vendor in the end. Obviously, after 5 months down the line, these sort of things obviously, happen, but the vendor decided to pull out from the sale, and in the end, he lost the property after pretty much nearly 6 months, 5.5 to 6 months. In the process. So it was, it was a shame. But at the end of the day, you know, that was his decision. And what we want to do with new investors is obviously try to follow the advice that we want to give you. We will do our best to try and give you the best possible service and get best possible deal available as well. But for that, you need to give us some space so we can literally plan out what you want to do, how we would like to do it for you. So obviously you can enjoy the project at the same time and get the returns that obviously was initially discussed when we first started the conversations. And finally, it's just a matter of trusting us on what we do best, which is obviously property. And if you want to be part of it, we're more than welcome to involve you in the project. We're more than welcome to help you and answer all of your questions and take you through the guidelines of property and how we do it and how you can get the best out of your deal. But at the same time, when you want to do the stuff your own way, then obviously, you know, it becomes a little bit difficult to deal and to manage the projects if we have two incomes from with different views. So that is the main concern. Just having learned from this investor. But apart from that, I think we've done pretty well with investors. Everyone's pretty much happy with the returns and the properties that we have purchased for them, and also one type of investor that I wanted to discuss as well is people who don't want to risk anything, and that in this case is not available. You know, if you don't want to risk anything, you better buy a bond or something like that in the bank or something like that where they give you 2-3% or put in an ISA account. But apart from that, investments involve risk, and I just want everyone to understand that we want to mitigate as much as we possibly can, but we cannot foresee the whole future. We don't have a crystal ball that can let us know everything in advance. But obviously, when we're doing our investments, we will try to mitigate and get the best possible thing that we can. So yeah, risk is involved, but as long as you're happy and you're concerned with and you understand the risk that is involved, then obviously things should do quite well.
So we've discussed, just to summarize, George, we've discussed or we've mentioned 4 different types of investor here. The last one we mentioned would fall into one of these. So we discussed the ready to invest person or investor who will actually take action very quickly. He's got the cash, he might have experience, but not the time, and he will take action very quickly. We have on the opposite the hesitant one, which doesn't want to take any risks. As you say, it will just question everything, but that hesitancy is more than trying to do the due diligence. It's an absolute difficulty in taking any risks, which is quite bad, and it goes against any strategy on speed that a successful investor would have. Then we mentioned the retire soon, and then the stubborn one, which doesn't follow. On all these, there is a pattern where the risk tolerance they have goes from low to very, very high. And I know, for example, that you, George, you have a very high risk tolerance. So how does somebody, an investor, which is in the hesitant scale, like at the very beginning, or the lowest level, how does that person work to mentally get to the sort of risk tolerance that allow you to go really fast in property investing?
I think that comes with confidence. So the more confident you are on what you're doing, obviously the more risks you can take while you're doing it. So for instance, people who are very risk averse are probably people who don't understand much about property, and obviously they don't know what they're doing, and obviously investing such amount of money into a project obviously can be very, very risky for them, as is basically everything they have, probably a lifetime savings, or they probably took out a portion of the pension fund where they keep the money, or things like that. So for them, and it's also the age group. So someone who is in his 50s or 60s obviously is not willing to risk as much as someone who was in his 20s or early 30s. So it really comes down to your personal circumstances as well. But the first thing will be confidence. The more you invest and the more you understand how the system and how the whole circle works in terms of property, then obviously that will build up your confidence to go to the next level and do a little bit quicker. It's just exactly when you start riding a bicycle. You start riding very, very slow, but as you gain confidence, you go faster and faster and faster and faster. It works out exactly the same way in property. So you start with one deal. If that first investment goes well, you took your own time. It could take 3, 4, 6 months, whatever it takes. But if that first investment goes well, you manage to buy the property, refurbish it, rent it out, and then obviously you deal with the 1 or 2 things that happen along the line with that investment, but you overall confident and happy with the end result, then that will boost your confidence to go into the second project. And if that second project goes well, pretty much as planned and pretty much as the first one, then obviously you get very confident on the system, and you've basically managed to do a couple of investments where you understand the purchase, the refurbishment, the rentals, the return on investment in the end, and all the legals on the property, and obviously any problems that may have with tenants and stuff like that. You're already familiar with what it could expect. So based on that, then obviously your confidence will boost to the level that you want to start doing it on a regular basis and a lot quicker. So it really depends your aim goal. How many properties you want to buy? You want 3, you want 4, 6, 10, 20. So that starts from there. And also the speed as you do it. So as I say, you start slow, but once you get confidence with it, then you obviously, your risk limit you start pushing the boundaries on how much risk you're taking on the properties. And as you understand what's going on, obviously you're mitigating that risk because you know exactly what to expect from the end result. So that is basically how you start managing your confidence levels and pushing your risk limits.
Yeah, I believe so. And I think that mental level of risk tolerance is one that all investors need to aim. And I think that actually gets first to an investor than huge amounts of cash flow, because they need to grow themselves before they actually grow their property portfolio. Once they can manage that sort of risk, then they can go fast and increase the speed. So that's amazing. Thank you, George, for that. Guys, I think and I hope you got a lot of value out of it. Listen to this podcast again. Ask yourself, what type of investor are you and what you can do to actually go up the ladder on this journey. Because if you're starting and you're hesitant, then there is a lot of personal growth that you need to do, and that comes combining or that becomes or increases or improves for you exposing yourself to property. Come with us to Liverpool, expose yourself to viewings, to see what we do over there with George. Come to our courses. I mean, expose yourself in any way you can, and that sort of knowledge will start getting rid of fear. Thank you, George. Thank you for this, and see you later on.
Thank you, Noel. Speak to you soon. I'll see you next week. So for those of you who have the cash but don't have the knowledge, we can help you here at Property Strategies. We can design a roadmap, or we can do a all-done-for-you service. And all you have to do is send us your inquiry at info@propertystrategies.co.uk. And for those of you who don't have the cash and you don't have the knowledge, but you want to start getting started in property, we can also help you. As I said, you can send us your inquiry of what exactly you want to achieve and what you want to do, and then we can tailor roadmap exactly what you want to do and how you can achieve it, how to put the theory into practice.